Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Haylee Ficuciello, Senior Correspondent for Englebrook Independent News. Tonight, we bring you our June 2026 Federal Crime Report, a comprehensive look at some of the most significant criminal cases announced in recent days by the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia and proceedings taking place in both the U.S. District Court and D.C. Superior Court. This month's report includes major fentanyl trafficking convictions, armed robberies, illegal firearm cases, cybercrime investigations, child exploitation prosecutions, mortgage fraud, murder convictions, and one of the most heartbreaking child abuse cases to emerge in the district this year. Let's begin. Federal prosecutors announced 28-year-old Devon Anton Arvin was pled guilty to illegally possessing a loaded firearm as a convicted felon. According to court records, U.S. Park police officers were patrolling the area on Dix Street and 63rd Street Northeast on the evening of February 18th when they observed Irvin smoking what appeared to be marijuana cigarette in public. As officers approached, they immediately detected odor of marijuana. Rather than comply with the police commands, Irvin fled. After a brief foot chase, Irvin tripped and fell. When officers caught up with him and asked why he ran, Irvin reportedly admitted that he was carrying a firearm and did not possess a license to carry it. Police recovered a loaded Springfield Armory XDS-9 pistol from his waistband containing 1 round in the chamber and 5 rounds inside the magazine. As a convicted felon, Irvin was legally prohibited from possessing firearm or ammunition. He now awaits sentencing before U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols on September 10th. 24-year-old George Carr has been sentenced to 51 months in federal prison for his role in an armed robbery that occurred inside Scott's Beauty Supply in Washington. Federal prosecutors say Carr and an unidentified accomplice entered the store wearing masks during the evening hours of August 1st of 2025. Court documents state Carr grabbed one employee by the shirt, pointed a handgun at him, and ordered everyone inside the store to get to the ground. Investigators say Carr then pressed the firearm against the back of an employee's head while his accomplice demanded money from another worker. The pair ultimately fled with approximately $200 in cash. During the investigation, Carr admitted he committed the robbery to repay a debt. Federal prosecutors also highlight Carr's violent criminal history, which include convictions involving threats to bomb a Washington restaurant and kill those inside, as well as domestic violence-related offense involving threats against his ex-girlfriend. Judge Emmett Sullivan ordered Carr to serve 3 years of supervised release following his prison sentence. Federal authorities secure another significant victory against fentanyl trafficking in this month. 38-year-old Michael Augament of Lawrenceton, Virginia, was sentenced to 81 months in federal prison after pleading guilty to conspiracy to distribute fentanyl. According to court records, Augament conducted multiple fentanyl transactions with law enforcement agents during 2024. One sale involved approximately 157 grams of fentanyl in exchange for $4,000. Another involved nearly 270 grams sold for $8,750. During a traffic stop conducted by Virginia State Police, officers recovered fentanyl, more than $12,000 in cash, and financial records documenting tens of thousands of dollars in additional transactions. Investigators later searched Argument's residence and recovered approximately $27,000 in cash, a heated seal device commonly associated with narcotic packaging, and handgun case. Argument admitted responsibility for distributing between 400 grams and 1.2 kilograms of fentanyl. Given the extraordinary potency of fentanyl, federal officials continue to prioritize investigating targeting those responsible for distributing deadly narcotics throughout the region. In one of the most significant cybercrime operations announced this year, the Department of Justice unveiled the results of what officials call Disruption Week. The initiative brought together federal agencies, international law enforcement organizations, and major technology companies in an effort to disrupt transnational scam operations based primarily in Southeast Asia. Federal officials report that more than 1.4 million fraudulent social media accounts, email accounts, and internet access accounts connected to scam operations were disrupted. Private sector partners voluntarily froze more than $3.8 million in cryptocurrency believed to be connected to laundering funds stolen from American victims. Participating organizations included Apple, Coinbase, Google, Meta, Microsoft, SpaceX, TRN Labs, Silent Push, and Zellner. The operation also resulted in the arrest of 7 suspected scammers in Thailand. According to federal authorities, many of these criminal enterprises operate from industrial scale compounds located in Cambodia, Laos, and Burma. Investigators say workers are frequently lured to these locations under false promises of employment before being forced to participate in a large-scale fraud scheme targeting victims across the world. The FBI estimated Americans reported more than $7.2 billion in losses tied to cryptocurrency investment scams during 2025 alone. Officials believe the true figure is substantially higher because many victims never reported their losses. Federal prosecutors also announced a guilty plea in a disturbing child exploitation case. 28-year-old Daniel Cruz Ramirez pled guilty to coercion and enticement of a child. According to prosecutors, Ramirez met the victim throughout church service when she was only 12 years old. Investigators later discovered extensive communication between Ramirez and the victim spanning nearly 2 years. Those communications occurred through text message, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Federal authorities say the conversations included discussions of sexual activity and efforts to avoid detection. Prosecutors further allege Ramirez repeatedly sexually abused the victim between 2024 and 2025. Investigators also recovered videos documenting portions of the abuse. The case was investigated by the FBI, Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Task Force, along with the Metropolitan Police Department. Ramirez is scheduled to be scheduled in November. 30-year-old Abdul Fields was pled guilty to multiple violent felony offenses connected to the 2025 shooting and subsequent firearm possession charges. According to prosecutors, Fields fired a handgun at a vehicle near North Capitol Street and New York Avenue during the early morning hours of March 24th of 2025. ShotSpotter technology detected the gunfire and responded officers recovered shells casing from the scene. Months later, United States Marshal recovered a privately manufactured firearm commonly known as a ghost gun. Ballistic testing linked the weapon directly to the shooting. When Fields was arrested in November, authorities recovered another loaded ghost gun from his waistband. Fields pled guilty to assault with a dangerous weapon, possession of a firearm during a crime of violence, and unlawful possession of ammunition by a felon. He faces a mandatory minimum prison sentence of 5 years. Federal prosecutors announced that Ricardo Anton Kunch, also known as King Pew, has been sentenced to 24 months in prison following a lengthy drug trafficking investigation. According to the investigators, Kunch and his associates routinely traveled between Los Angeles and the Washington metropolitan area to purchase marijuana for redistribution on the East Coast. In February of 2024, agents intercepted one shipment at BWI Airport and seized more than 54 pounds of marijuana hidden inside a luggage. Law enforcement later executed search warrants at the location connected to the operation. Authorities recovered narcotics, firearms, ammunition, and more than $53,000 in cash. Conch admitted to possessing firearms in connection with the trafficking organization. Federal prosecutors also secured a 87-month prison sentence against a Maryland resident, Michael Owens. According to court records, Owens served as a redistributor in a long-running fentanyl and cocaine trafficking conspiracy operating throughout Washington. Investigators utilized wiretapes to document conversations involving drug debt, narcotic supplies, distribution activity, and operational planning. Federal prosecutors stated Owens admitted responsibility for distributing significant quantities of both fentanyl and cocaine. Several co-defendants have already received lengthy federal prison terms, including sentences exceeding 13 years and one sentence approaching 20 years. The case involved cooperation between the DEA, FBI, U.S. Postal Inspection Service, Alexandria Police Department, Montgomery County Police Department, and Metropolitan Police Department. One of the largest white-collar crimes case announced this month involves the D.C. Housing Authority employee Richard Cunningham. Federal prosecutors allege Cunningham orchestrated a mortgage fraud scheme involving approximately $15 million in fraudulent loan applications. Investigators say Cunningham falsified mortgage documents, fabricated lease agreements, and misrepresented financial information in order to obtain financial for multifamily properties. Perhaps most unusual allegations involving a fictitious housing program supposedly designed to assist military veterans. Investigators determined no such program existed. According to prosecutors, lenders ultimately funded approximately $12.1 million in loans based on false information. Cunningham faces sentencing later this year and could receive a substantial prison sentence. 18-year-old Jerron Butler has pled guilty to participating in a violent robbery spree that targeted pedestrians throughout the Capitol Hill neighborhoods. According to prosecutors, Butler and several accomplices used stolen vehicles while searching for victims during the early morning hours of December 2nd of 2024. Authorities say 10 separate victims were approached, threatened with firearm, and robbed of wallets, cell phones, purses, and other personal belongings. Butler remained in custody since his arrest in July of 2025. Sentencing is scheduled for August. One of the most heartbreaking criminal cases announced this month involves the death of a 13-month-old in Southeast Washington. 25-year-old Valencia Duke has been charged with first-degree felony murder and multiple child cruelty offenses. According to court records, prosecutors allege Duke left her two 13-month children alone inside a residence for several days. When officers responded to the home on January 18th, they discovered one child deceased and another suffering from severe dehydration and malnourishment. The surviving child was rushed to a hospital and ultimately recovered. Medical examiners later determined dehydration caused the death of the female child. A Superior Court judge ordered Duke to be held without bond pending trial. The investigation remains ongoing. Federal authorities also announced the sentencing of Sergio Castillo Lopez, a Mexican citizen who remained in the United States illegally after overstaying a tourist visa. Investigators say Castillo Lopez entered the country in 2017 on a 30-day visa and never departed. During a search of his residence in Northwest Washington, officers recovered nearly half a kilogram of cocaine, digital scale, and cash consistent with the narcotic trafficking. Castillo Lopez pled guilty and received a 12-month prison sentence. He has agreed not to contest removal proceeding following completion of his sentence. Finally, tonight, a D.C. Superior Court jury convicted 29-year-old Alzano Brown on his role in a deadly retaliation shooting that occurred in January of 2019. According to prosecutors, Brown and several associates sought revenge following the murder of a friend connected to the ongoing neighborhood feud. The day after the victim's funeral, the group drove to the Benning Court apartments searching for the rivals. Once they located the target, prosecutors say the gunman entered an apartment building and unleashed 72 rounds in just 8 seconds. 22-year-old Michael Taylor was killed. 2 additional victims were wounded. Surveillance video captured suspects before, during, and after the shooting. Although the previous trial ended in a hung jury, prosecutors secured convictions this month on the charges including first-degree murder, conspiracy, assault, and multiple firearm offenses. Brown now awaits sentencing in October. The cases highlight tonight demonstrate the broad range of criminal activity currently confronting federal and local law enforcement agencies throughout the District of Columbia. From violent shooting and armed robberies to fentanyl trafficking, cybercrime, child exploitation, mortgage fraud, and homicide, these investigations illustrate both the challenges facing public safety officials and the ongoing effort to hold offenders accountable throughout the criminal justice system. As these cases continue moving through the courts, Englebrook Independent News will remain committed to following the facts, monitoring the sentencing outcomes, and bringing you the comprehensive coverage of major criminal cases affecting our communities. For Englebrook Independent News, I'm Haylee Ficuciello. Thank you for joining us on the June 2026 Federal Crime Report. Good night, stay safe, stay informed.